Welcome back, guys. We're here at the Chicho's podcast. We're at one of our locations, the Strawbridge location, located in Gerald Booth area, Virginia Beach, Virginia. We're here joined today with Rob Richardson, and he is our partner here and operator of this location. And I guess I'll leave you the floor of introducing yourself, Rob. And
hey guys, how y'all doing? Robert Richardson, been here for since longer than that, but 2008 with Chicho's. No, I've pretty much spent almost my whole adult life in this business, in this location. So
yeah, well, yeah, we're about to dig into it today, and the topic for conversation is we're coming on 10 years at this location. I think this location opened up 2014. In some of our past episodes, we kind of talked about the story of this location, but there's more to a story than just the location. And yeah, I mean, so what's your typical day-to-day here, Rob?
At this stage in my career, I was at the oceanfront for 10 plus years. I got here in, I want to say 2017. So it's definitely different from the first 10 years. Took me a couple of years to kind of get used to it. This is more the family environment, which for me was actually kind of perfect because at that point I had just had my son. So I was kind of a great segue to get out of that oceanfront area and kind of come over here where it's more of a neighborhood, family-friendly type of bar. Mm-hmm. But since then, this is a lot of my learning and probably came from this stretch over here. This is where a lot of the details of the business, a lot of the, I guess all the way across the board. I've always worked with Potter for the oceanfront, so he did a lot of that, high-end stuff for me. So this was the learning experience for the first few years and kind of understanding the business for what it really is. And,
yeah. What he's not saying is he's 1 mile from Louie and I's backyard, so we're here all the time just nitpicking the shit out of him.
Constant attention.
That's what he wanted to say when he was trying to be nice.
Constant attention. But at the end of the day, you might hate it, but you got to take the good that you get from it. And here we are. We're up there in the company, so I'll take that for what it is.
Yeah, and I think something I want to note here for people watching to give context, I think Strawbridge, at least from my perspective, really marked a shift in the Chicho's brand overall, and the Chicho's, the whole, I guess, Chicho's name, I think really shifted from that bar to the restaurant. I think Strawbridge is like the epitome of that shift.
No, you're right. I mean, because it was a bigger location. It's over 6,000 square feet, close to almost 200 seats. But, we were older at that point. We had gone, like Rob mentioned, we were in the bar scene and we are transitioned to the restaurant. And so, it's good to see his perspective, which is why we brought him in, into these podcast shows. And just trying to get a different perspective because, Ed and I have talked about, our personal journeys and so forth. But for Rob to be able to speak on his own journey and his own experience, it's a good different perspective in hearing it because Ed and I are learning things as we talk through these episodes. And so Rob, I guess now that you've seen the way the brand is growing, I mean, how do you compare to when you first started into the hospitality industry?
To even say the hospitality, it was more of I just wanted to be a part of the party that Chicho's was back then. I used to go there for, a few years, and then it was just such a fun place to want to be at. That's how, I started coming there all the time. A lot of it was the people. Me and Potter, good friends for a long time. But there, I just wanted to, be a part of the scene, I guess, more or less. And then as the years went on, and especially coming into here, that was the segue of learning the bigger picture of everything. Great experience, I guess. It was just to be one of the people that got to see it, in its heyday. I guess, we bring a lot of people on nowadays that don't remember Chicho's for kind of what it was. I mean, obviously these two guys started it off way before me, but, any managers are bringing in there. It's kind of me and Potter that were there for those early years. So it's a night and day difference. And this probably definitely was the family restaurant. This is the first restaurant version of it. And I think it took some getting used to. I did understand certain parts of the store that helped me, even at 29th Street, to help get this place to where it is now. But there was a lot of on-the-job learning and training, I think, for everyone when it comes to dynamic of opening up more than just a bar. So it's been a good experience. I mean, it's taken some time, but I'm very happy where we're at this point.
Yeah, and I think something I learned today, I didn't realize Rob was part of the Crazy Charlie's brand too.
Did you bartend
before.
down there, or did you just work?
I was working door, bar back, and got a few bar shifts at the edge, and then the old Chichos on the block, and then they didn't let me bartend much at Charlie's, so I had to go to the other bars next door.
I'm curious though, like, what was your first impression of Ed and Louie, and then I guess in reverse, what were your guys' first impressions of Rob?
Well, it depends on when Louie remembers me. I worked for him. He was in and out, but it wasn't until I think the 29th Street years where he was like, "Hey, Rob," this, that, and the other. So he probably took a few years before he caught on to me. But it was a big difference.
Well, let me ask you this question, because you have a you have a different pathway from some of the other members of our executive team, because you're an operating partner, right?
Yep.
And so I guess speak on what you've learned in running a business as a small business owner. What are you key takeaways? What you've learned over the last couple of years now that you've went from an employee manager to an operating partner?
For me, it was really how tight this type of business has to be run to make it successful. It is. It took some time. Like I said, it was a learning process. When I got here, I would say the first couple of years is really understanding the back end of it. I think for me personally, I'm more of a numbers make more sense to me in certain situations, and seeing it from that perspective really changed how I looked at it. And but was good for me because it got me to focus on things that I'm already good about, and I think that was my first take. I didn't know how it ran. I've been with the company for a while. I understood the brand, but once I understood the back end of it, and I didn't have that for the first 10 years. It was the last 10, last 8. That I really started to understand that aspect of it and how hard it is to keep a restaurant/bar open in this day and age. Made a lot more sense to me being able to understand that part of it, and then everything else kind of branched off from that point, I would say.
So I want to ask Ed, how has Rob grown from your eyes? Because I know you've
Well, so it's already weird. I've already had a few questions I want to ask him on my own, but to answer yours, so my first memory of really him is when Potter was trying to move on from 29th Street, and I think, were you the first one trying to take over there? Yeah. So Rob was the first one up that he recommended to take over there. I'll let him share his story if he wants to ever about that. That ended in some turmoil with something happening between him and a friend, etc. But that's my first memory of him, and I didn't really know him until then. He eventually came back over here. But I do have a question, because Rob is right. He does know the back. Like Louie and I have always said this, that you start from the back of the house, you start from the bottom up, you learn your way through the whole business. And Rob has done that. He's done that pretty well with the kitchen. He's learned his numbers, his back end admin, whatever task that a manager is supposed to do. But it made me question myself right now, thinking this is not. Don't take this bad by any means. Since you came from that Crazy Charlie's, that bar scene, I will say one thing that we've probably been poking at you recently about is, that nightlife side again back here, right? And that's something that you started from, and it seems like you strayed from it now a little bit, even though I think you're trying to get back. We realize we need all those, different avenues.
All those pillars.
Yeah, all those different avenues. And be it that, it could be, you had your son, it was a different time of your life, but what was it that you strayed from that? And like you because I remember you saying at one point, I'm not that life anymore. I refuse to be in that life anymore, but it's a crucial part of our business as well. Yeah. So it made me think, I was like, wait, he started in those Charlie's days.
Well, a lot of it was, for those years, it was, when I worked with Matt, he kind of made those decisions on the bigger things of the importance of the ambiance here, the volume, the lighting, the people, the combination of bartenders you put together, he took a lot of that off my plate where I could just work and bartend, cook, and have more of a free, opened up kind of mentality about it.
So that's a good question for Potter now.
Yeah.
Why not train?
But he hammered, no. But he actually did. That was one of the last things that he hammered on me. It took me that was probably the one thing that took me the longest to like cement up here, that to where when I walk in now, that's the first thing I look for, is whether it's the TV, during the day, the TV, this, that, and the other. But it has to do with that. A lot of it was, having Nixon, and I have a daughter that's 17 years older than him. So, I really didn't take advantage of those years when I was 17 having a kid. And then when I had him, it was a lot of a bigger focus on that. And then there was an aspect of, when I first got here, we were doing so many 5-piece bands, a lot of high-end entertainment stuff. And then that was around the same time I'm going into the numbers, and some of the ways that we were doing things here just didn't make sense number-wise. And I guess the location and the environment kind of changed it a little bit. It was a lot easier to put out good food product and get families to take advantage of before 10 o'clock sales. And it kind of just, it's part of where my life was, and that's why I married into it, that kind of mentality. I understand, we like you said, they give me a good time about making sure the 4 pillars, and I'm lacking one. It's trying to get that late night energy. And I do know it's a different area than down there, so it's never going to be the same. But there is there's a need. There's a need, and there's a certain aspect of that's its own problem-solving aspect of, like I was saying, putting the right people together, kind of building that atmosphere for your staff that I'm gradually starting to get into, or what I want to get better at going forward.
And it's one of those things that, like, you got to figure it out and then pass it on and make other people, see your vision and do what you want to do. So I think
that's the hardest part.
I was always very curious about that. And if you've been around for that, like if Potter maybe took the lead and did all that stuff, and you knew what he was doing, you could have still just forced that here, even though through other people, instead of just thinking you had to have your hands on doing it yourself.
When I first got here, it was just like, it was all at once. It was definitely different having someone else making that decision. So it took me some time, and then there was a transition of, how much money we were spending on entertainment compared to what we were doing late night sales. I think that's what we were trying to do in the beginning, because it is a long-term plan to be able to build the food up, that getting it into your neighborhood, and then making it that place where it's very consistent. And that just tended to be the easier route for me. I knew that part of it so well. So I think that was it was easier for me to go that route. And then we did so well with it that in my head on some level, I was like, well, we don't need as much of that after 10 o'clock sales.
What do you think it's taking to do now to get those sales back?
It's being more present in those times where can't go to bed at 8 o'clock. No, it's being more present. It's, I've always, we have a great relationship with our customers here. It's very, very return customer based place. So I have a lot of good relationships. Yeah.
I think maybe that's a problem too.
Yeah.
I think you guys rely on those return customers, and you're not used to having those other customers for those late night sales or those later night sales. I don't want to say late night. I don't say that anymore. I think it's more of a just leading showing attention to detail,
Yeah.
the customer service level, the attention to, the atmosphere, the lights, the music, I don't think it's going to take a whole lot. I think it's just a mindset change amongst your staff, too.
Oh, 100%.
Instead of just thinking, okay, it's almost 9, 10 o'clock, we're going to be slow now. No, it's like, okay, switch. Now I want to entertain people.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all about, what we're going to have going on in here that much. I think it's just creating an environment in ourselves.
And and we're not trying to recreate 29th Street. It's a totally different area and age group and this, that, and the other, but there has to be still that same energy that we have with our dine-in customers sitting at tables that we need to have with the bar. I think there's an aspect of kind of how I run this particular location. Sometimes you want to put that young person or that really popular person behind the bar, and my mentality is I like to have managers that are for the most part doing a lot of the other stuff well, but they just lacked in that department, which probably just mimics my mentality. So obviously I was giving that energy, and then that's why we're so good before 10 o'clock and we're lacking different. The mindset of the growth, on certain days of the week, there's not much more money we can do between 5 and 9 for them dinner sales. We do great during the day. So where are you bringing this extra income in? Yep. It's that fourth pillar that, and in terms of numbers, like I said, that stuff makes sense to me. So obviously, if we want to get to another level, that's the route we have to go. It doesn't have to be like the oceanfront. It doesn't be like the same days. It's a different crowd, but there's still things you can do to promote a fun environment, at least till 11:30, 12. You know what I mean? You don't have to be up until 2 and do that, kind of routine anymore. But, there's about a couple hours that we need to focus on more here.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was awesome. A little roundabout way of answering the questions. But I guess to give you flowers, though, too, I think this team here has been one of the most, committed team, I think, of the locations. And I think you do a good job at least creating that culture here. At least we have a younger
I might be
crowd
deaf,
here.
but I can barely hear you, buddy. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Maybe because I hear myself in the headphones. But yeah, I think thinking back 10 years ago, I was part of the Strawbridge crew, and seeing young people in Strawbridge and in that rotation. How have you been able to kind of lead a team that's a bit younger on the demographic?
I 100% believe in that aspect. It really is culture. It's how you treat people. It's how you treat people in general across the board. I think that's a life thing. Mm-hmm. I always could have good interactions with the customers, but the employees and building an environment where it's family based. It should feel like family. It's when you have your conversations with them, it isn't just yelling. It's saying, this is the problem. This is what I think we can do to fix it. It's more than just, yelling at you because they didn't do it right. Culture here is what I talk about when I'm hiring any employee. You can come in and be the hardest worker in the world, but if you can't get along, because, you have an open kitchen as well in this location, customers gravitate to people having a good time. And a lot of our interactions here are, example, one of my managers here, Reed, is just us going back and forth, knowing damn well that everyone over there is just laughing and having a good time at us doing our thing. The culture aspect, I think, is probably the most lacking nowadays in the restaurant industry. It's, turnover, and firing employees and after the training is a very expensive avenue to go around.
Yeah, and then I think to go on this further, Ed and Lou have kind of been mentors, so it's interesting to see, from our conversation yesterday from last episode, to kind of see how the culture's kind of passed down from the top and then all the way through the managers, and then,
think about the amount of time you spend with the people you work with. It's almost sometimes more than the people that you're at home. So you become some kind of family no matter what, if you wanted to or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and given the stress of the restaurant industry, I'm sure there's hours where you're you're challenged, I guess, to say the least.
He's not like he's been not exposed to me and him fighting on the phone and hanging up and then didn't get back at it, a couple hours later or the next day. It's just like any relationship.
Gotcha.
Got to be able to handle criticism on both ends.
Yeah.
Gosh, so I mean, how old were you when you met? I guess, or were joined the Crazy Charlies?
Well, he don't
and Chichos?
remember, but I was 24.
Okay,
I
that's
was 24, and I'm
I'm
What year was
24.
2004.
2004.
Yeah,
He was starting when I was on my way out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
the
why.
Crazy Charlies.
I went passive for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2014, and then here we are at Strawbridge. So we're coming towards the end of the episode, but one thing I like to do with these episodes is one moment of goodness from the week, one thing you're looking forward to, and then one aim or dream you're working towards.
I gave these yesterday, so
Yeah,
I don't have
so it's
anything
all
new.
Rob.
So it's all Rob.
Rob.
Oh, Rob, give me the first question again.
Goodness from the week.
yeah.
Goodness for the
from the
week. For the week.
Could be personal. It doesn't have to be work.
I don't have to work. Personally, I would say me and my son have kind of changed certain aspects of our day-to-day, with some of the school stuff, and he's starting to. Actually, there's been a lot of legwork to get him to the point where he's actually very understanding of what I'm saying, and he's starting to give me a little bit back instead of me just telling him what to do. So we've had some good conversations this week, and there's some good changes we're trying to make for our personal lives. So I'll take that as
Awesome.
positive.
Awesome. And then one aim and dream you're working towards, and then one thing you're looking forward to.
Looking forward to is beating Matt Potter in sales for the year. I've made it to second this year. I've made it all the way up to second. He got me by a little bit. Pretty much for me,
I wouldn't have guessed
he only
that.
got me by 80.
Man, that's embarrassing for you.
So that being said, I'm very competitive based, I guess. So you give me, and Ed's good at this, of find a way to make it a competitive situation, and then I more or less thrive in those types. I hate losing in anything. So that literally is what pushes me through. And then goal at the end of the, I really just want to kind of get this store to where I kind of perceive that it could be. There's been so many strides to get it where it was to where it was 7 years ago, 8 years ago when I got here. I'm just excited to see how far I can take it. The first few years, you're unsure if you could even do it. You're learning, and it took me, a couple bad years, and then you had a good one, and just build off that. So every year, I'm trying to improve.
That momentum.
Number, like I said, all goes back to numbers to me. It's all about numbers. So
And I'd like to say, I mean, they're doing great at this location. He's doing great with it, but I'll come down harder on those guys because I don't want it to slip. I don't want them to fall. And he always questions why are you beating on me like this? I'm
Well,
like, because I've seen this happen before. We get comfortable and we let it go.
He can say that.
So I'd rather just ride you out.
It's one thing from both of them. They said that, and I said that. When I first got here, certain things you pick up on. It's hard to get your store to a certain point. It's even harder to keep it at the point once you get it there.
Yep.
That's one thing that's always stuck. Once you get complacent,
It's like anything. It's a slow climb to get there.
Yeah.
But it's a fast fall.
yeah.
So
And,
let's not fall.
once you take your foot off the gas is when things happen.
Kinda like the Roman Empire,
luckily,
yeah.
since we all live in this area, they like to remind me all the time.
Yeah. So I guess when's the 10th anniversary?
That's going to be, we're doing that March 28th.
Gotcha.
March 28th. DJ Breakthrough.
Yeah. So instead of a one to close, let's do one memory you guys have from these 10 years from all three of y'all. Yeah. For this location.
COVID.
There's a big one. We had Snoop Dogg in here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's the
Oh,
easy
gosh.
go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. You didn't even let me come. You left me
bet he
at
didn't.
home,
You
Dad.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
You were 16 years old.
Yeah. I remember that night. I was doing my homework. I was like, I want to go, but yeah.
Yeah.
Wrong environment.
Yeah, it was.
For me, it was COVID. That was the very learning experience on all different ends.
Yeah.
It was highs and lows to that whole process.
Well, we got an extended bar out of it.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. All right. What about you, Dad?
That was it, Snoop Dogg.
Oh, Snoop Dogg too.
Snoop Dogg.
Yep.
All right, cop out answer. Just kidding. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the episode. I mean, I guess I could share my memory. I think my most fondest memory was just working here and seeing like my friends come when I was like in middle school and be like, oh my gosh, you're working, Jake. Like I was like one of the first people in my class to start working.
Have a job, yeah.
Yeah, have a job. So
14.
when people were like at the Regal movie theater, like across the street, they're like, they come in and come visit me when I'm just hosting or busing. Yeah, so.
I got my son back here making pizzas. He's
Yeah.
been doing it since he was
It's family
3.
business.
I literally have timelines of his whole life of making pizzas here. He's going to be a lifer. Yeah. Choice.
Yeah, well, that's a good wrap up. I mean, I don't know if you want to one more close from Rob, but that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, Rob.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you guys.